All right, we are live. Let's see. Oh, except that it says it looks like this broadcast was deleted on LinkedIn. Oh,
Hmm.
that's fun. That works for me. Just remove this destination and then re-add it. Well, you know what? We'll do that and then we'll do that. Save changes and then we'll add it back on there. See, this is like a troubleshooting day. It's like Thursday.
Yeah, we're a
Jeez.
mess.
I know this is some Monday stuff that should be happening. It's never happened before, but technology, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
Um, all right. Anyway, Jarrad, thanks for joining me this morning.
sure.
Um, for everyone who's watching, welcome back or welcome your first time to Getting Personal with Compt. This is a show that is all about connecting with workplace experts and people who are just committed to building a better human experience at work. We hear so often that we need to improve the employee experience, but we tend to forget that employees are people, not just a headcount. So
Hmm.
today is exciting because I'm joined by actually one of my former coworkers in a space that is, I would call, a hot topic for human resources. Sometimes you see the headlines calling it deskless. You see frontline, hourly, shift workers. We're talking about people who aren't sitting at a computer like we are right now
Hmm.
and working in various types of industries. Jarrad, you join us from the fire protection and security industry. Can you tell me a little bit about your title, what you do? Give me some insight into your job.
Yeah, so I started 4 years ago at what was at that point communication systems integrators. At that point, we were a KPI company, so it was three of us, and we mainly ran security and communications out of my current office. About 2 years ago, a promotion opportunity came along, and for a uh, security service manager. So applied, got the job. Been in this role ever since. So I have a background about 9 to 10 years in telecommunications. So I'm a little versed in it, but the management aspect is a little new. So
Yeah, I feel like so much has changed since I left. And even when I was there, it was interesting because to give everyone some background, there was like three different companies
mhm,
that sort of merged but kept their own brand identities because, as you know, like in local business, the brand and the company is so familiar with the community that you can't just like hard launch a new brand, new identity. It doesn't really resonate well with customers. So there was like some fire protection companies, a security company, and then we eventually did that rebrand into one company,
mhm,
and then that company was actually acquired. So a lot has changed in that time, and as you can imagine, you're dealing with like three different companies of employees now coming together as one and then joining a even larger entity. So there's so many
mhm,
things happening, changes happening, even in like maybe the types of software you use, who you
mhm.
report to. So I want to ask you how that has like impacted your role. What does your team look like? Tell me about like that dynamic.
Sure. So, change in the workplace can be a positive impact or it can definitely be a negative impact. Um, I think what we've been seeing is a lot of change in a short amount of time. Um, there's been a lot of adaptations, and a lot of the company has been able to stick through that and figure it out and get on with their daily adventures. But it definitely does cause some headache and some concern when you're going through this much change in a short amount of time, and you just kind of have to keep you kind of have to show your leadership side at that point, just to say, hey, we can get through this, we can do this, and kind of push everyone along and help where you're needed, and you know uh, just to get back to a normal day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like the especially in these types of workplaces, there is something to be said about the relationship that you have with your direct manager, like more than anybody else in the company, because
Hmm.
there's so many different types of teams that you're working like within and alongside as well, depending on the nature of the work or the customer that you're servicing. Like it might not just be a day where you go test the alarm system at a school. It might also, because it's summer and it's like the busiest month, you probably have sprinkler inspections going on, the security inspection, like you're trying to get everybody in at once. So
Mhm.
you're working with people who you might not see all the time, but your relationship with your direct manager is so impactful. So can you tell me a little bit about how you're cultivating something that we talked about before, culture within a culture for your
Mhm.
team?
Yeah, so this job's kind of split in a whole lot of directions, and I'm sure that can be said for a lot of different manager roles. Um, the biggest thing you are to a direct report, I think, is a resource instead of a manager, and it's whether you need to be a funnel for something that needs to be escalated, if whether it be internal or external customer based, a resource as far as a technical resource in my role. Um, and just someone to go to and say, "Hey, I'm not having a good day. This is what's going on, and can we figure this out?" So um, I definitely think the interpersonal connection there is vital in uh, retaining the employee, as well as helping them get through their day to day and know they have someone to fall back on, and they're not doing this stuff by themselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like depending on the size of an organization, I mean, like if you're talking about fire and protection and security, you could be a company of 200 people, you can be
Mhm.
a company of 2,000 people. So, where in certain places you may have a better relationship with upper level management or
Mhm.
HR, the people that you need to ask like payroll questions to. That isn't always necessarily like transparent
Mhm.
or I don't like easily communicated within a company, especially when you have people who are out in the field and not checking their email
Mhm.
24/7. So,
Yeah.
you had mentioned something interesting when we talked in prepping for the show about meeting with your team once a month. Tell
Mhm.
me more about that.
Yeah, so we do when I first started here, we kind of veered off we do monthly staff meetings. So we bring in all of our field technicians, our management, our engineering team, and we kind of just do a roundtable and hey, what have you guys figured out in the last month, and what's coming up new, and what have you seen the trend going toward as far as the technology aspect? It's an ever changing market. Um, and it kind of just gives them, that team morale booster, like, hey, we're all sitting here and we have the same problems, and we're here to figure it out. And it definitely helps that 10-minute water cooler talk in the beginning of the day is I think vital, especially when you're dealing with field staff and the ever changing markets and customer bases we're in. That it kind of gives these guys a resource outside of me to fall back on and let them know, like, hey, you're part of a team, and we all share the same problems, and you're not kind of singled out.
So is that something that like that format of a conversation since it was newer when you stepped into a management role, was that something that you kind of championed? Was that organization wide? Like how has that been adopted and I'm just wondering if maybe like the newer guys appreciate it more and the older guys just want to get to work or because
Mhm.
there seems to be always be some kind of disconnect.
Yeah. So as far as the meetings we have, it's strictly just our security team. Um, just because of the topics we share and the conversations we have only kind of relate to what we're working with. Um, I have gotten a lot of good feedback. It's a lot of, hey, I had this issue in the field, and but we sat in this meeting and he discussed it, and now we share the same problem and we can work on it together. So it kind of gives these guys a sense of camaraderie, and as far as the older versus the newer generation in the meetings, I think it's going to benefit everyone, and it has been. Um, the veteran guys have been here a while, and they've seen and dealt with a lot of things that the newer guys are trying to figure out. So again, it kind of gives you that pathway of communication to be like, hey, I've seen this problem. This is what you got to do to fix it, and it kind of gives the training aspect and the ramp up aspect a little more growth and help.
Right. One thing that's interesting to me is that at least from what I noticed in working in the company and working alongside like recruiting efforts, it always
Mhm.
seemed like generating interest to recruit either kids out of tech school or right out of high school,
Mhm.
or even after college, depending on what route they went. They always seemed a little bit more interested in the AV security kind of route. And maybe that's because it's computer adjacent and
Mhm.
just more interesting than fire protection. Like, I don't necessarily think I want to go around installing sprinkler systems and
Mhm.
slinging pipe in a construction setting. And I think I would rather be working on security systems. But you had mentioned that like there's still a recruiting retention problem. So walk me through how often you're trying to recruit, onboard new talent. Like what do those pain points look like?
Sure. So the market and what we bring to market is a very specialized field, just because we carry the entire life safety aspect. So especially in the security division, it's an ever changing market. There's new technology coming out every day, and um, we we look for someone with experience, but we're not scared to train someone. So we have to find a good middle ground of someone that knows the basics, but is also open and willing to learn the trade. Um, we've had a lot of success doing that as far as the security team goes, and the company in general. We have a lot of good bodies here, and people who are willing to learn and put their time in. Um, the onboarding process is a little lengthy, um, but you kind of weed out who wants to be here and who doesn't within the first few months, and who's really passionate about what they do here and the systems that they install and maintain.
Yeah, I remember you had said something like, was it like 3 months for onboarding for your team, which is still like a significant amount
Hmm.
of time. Like especially if you're considering like the Monday through Friday, it's not like 1 day a week that they're onboarding
Yeah.
and then jumping right into the field. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So we have different levels of onboarding here. We span from 3 months all the way up to sometimes 18 months, depending on the field that you're going into. Um, 3 months is kind of the general gist of, yeah, this we have enough knowledge put into this process that the technician could be out and troubleshooting on his own and installing. But it's definitely a process between the initial uh, getting the interview, getting the phone interview, setting everything up and getting them in here to do the actual onboarding after post hire. Um, Plus, it's a logistical aspect of getting them to where they need to be and the different paperwork aspects and logging your time correctly. And so, aside from the actual training aspect, there's a lot of admin work that goes into just bringing someone on, and kind of getting them through their first few months and the processes and who they're working with and the different customers and stuff. So there's definitely a lot of admin work as well as field technician work that goes into onboarding and getting someone up to speed.
Yeah, there's like a lot of training that happens in skilled
Hmm.
labor because even if you go to school, tech school or something for the specific trade that you're getting into, there's
Hmm.
still so many processes that you have to learn that are unique to that company that you're joining. So, especially when it comes to paperwork and how
Hmm.
you handle customer service and just the inner workings that take time to onboard people to.
Hmm.
And you have your 30-day check-in and your 60-day check-in and your 90-day check-in. And then by then someone might realize like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
This isn't as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. I mean, glamorous is probably never going to be the word for that
Hmm.
industry. But then you have a turnover problem. And so often we saw people would leave, go to the competitor, and then come back. So it seems like we're just constantly trading people back and forth. Tell me a little bit more about the churn aspect. Like how often this is really hard to quantify sometimes,
Mhm.
especially from your position, but like how often are people leaving? Where are they going? Are they saying why? Like there's so many pieces to this I'm trying to uncover.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's no surprise that skilled labor is definitely in a high demand. We're constantly building, we're constantly repairing. So the the chance to bring someone in that has the industry knowledge and has the industry certificates and all that good stuff is, second to none. So there's a high market for skilled technicians and even entry level technicians, that people that, again, that want to learn and want to come in and want to be, a tradesman. Um, you always go back to the grass isn't greener on the other side, and I think a lot of employees go and they figure that out. Um, I don't know if it's a I don't know if you can fault them for looking into greener pastures. I think if they go there and they figure out that it's not for them, they'll make their way back at some point. Um, but there is a definitely, especially after COVID with the layoffs and all that, there definitely is a high market for skilled labor. Tech schools are ramping up and buildings are going up, and it's a constantly evolving world, especially, um, in the life safety industry. So there definitely is a high market for the technicians that we employ, and it's that comes all back to employee retention.
So I know that there are different ways to approach like salary benchmarking in these industries, especially because you had mentioned you have people who are coming right out of school, no
Mhm.
experience. You have people who are experienced, maybe coming from either a competitor or an industry that's very similar. So the skills are transferable. And then you have the additional layer of all the certifications that they can receive or are coming in with. So if it isn't salary that is influencing, acquisition or retention, what is? Like, is it other benefits that the team wants that shows that the company is, you know, truly supporting their whole lives, like their work-life balance, their whole selves? Or is it really the relationships? Is that where the key is, the relationships that they're building with their coworkers, with managers like you?
Yeah, so I think after the pandemic, there was a real big push in labor, and I think employees are looking at, and that's the employees across the board are looking at, I can go anywhere and make the salary or the hourly wage that I'm looking at. I want a company that's going to care about me and give me a healthy work life balance and have a good culture, and that comes back to, if you have a job you love, you never work a day in your life. So I think they're definitely looking for, what does the benefits look like? What does the 401k or the pension look like? What is our PTO like? And what is the company culture? And how do you guys, maintain that culture, as far as, whether it be company meetings like we do the once a month, or, maybe just bringing the guys in or going out to lunch or something like that. Just to show them that, we see you, and that, you're not just another number in the books. So, I definitely think, aside from the money aspect, there's a big push to be able to include employees and make them feel wanted, and make them feel like, you know, we need you. We're going to do what we can to keep you here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The recognition piece, I remember, has always been
Hmm.
really significant. So, last question before we part. I just want to get your thoughts on what's next. So, do you have any things in the works to try to attract some new talent, retain people on your team? Do you have like other types of initiatives that you're launching to try to create that culture that you say is so impactful?
Hmm. So retention for me is huge. With the industry that we're in, skilled technicians are very few and far between, and I have a great team of guys here that, I'm not looking to lose anytime soon. So, um, all I can say is just listen. listen to their thoughts and listen to their gripes and listen to what they need. And if you give them the tools to be successful, I mean, you have a strong working team right there. So if they need a day off, or if they need to cut out early, or if they need this tool to get the job done, we got to give them what they need. And the more successful your field staff is, the more successful your management is, and the more successful your company is going to be. So just listening and understanding their thoughts and visiting them in the field is going to be a game changer, I think, in keeping employees here and giving them a good work balance.
Totally agree with you. Jarrad, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, especially when I know there are always things that are happening and to be done in the industry. If anyone wants to follow up with you, reach out. Maybe they're interested in employment. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on my LinkedIn, Jarrad Smith, Security Service Field Team Leader. You can also apply through our website, keystonefire.com. Just open up a conversation and we can discuss.
Great. Thanks again for your time, Jarrad. For everyone else who is listening, watching, we will be back in a couple of weeks with a few more interesting guests. People keep popping up out of the woodwork to talk about how important it is to create a better employee experience and treat people like people. So I'm hoping that if we're all talking about it, we'll actually be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens. All right, everyone. Enjoy your Thursday. Thanks again, Jarrad.
Thank you.
Bye.